so excited for you to be here.
I'm excited.
They're going wild for you over there. That group over there is.
And over here, too.
Get these guys right here. Yeah.
I mean, it is kind of fabulous. You know, you're polling as high as 8%. But not long ago, the Washington Post ran a very dismissive story about you called "Random Man Runs for President." You know, I mean,
not very nice.
No, it wasn't very nice, and it really sort of pooped on the idea that every American can run for president.
Yeah.
You know, and it made it sound like that wasn't a good idea. So, are you surprised now that the momentum is building, and by the reception you're getting from folks?
I'm thrilled with the reception we're getting around the country. And I just like to point out there's no way a random man could run for president because the average American's living paycheck to paycheck, so it's not like they can quit their job and decide to run for office.
Don't say that.
I had a little bit of savings.
You had some savings.
Yeah.
And a very, very understanding spouse.
But also, for a random man running for president, you're actually polling higher than the senator in California, and you're also from California. You're polling higher than Kamala Harris in California. That is a pretty impressive feat at this point.
Thank you, Megan.
You're running. I love an unconventional campaign. I just do. You're not wearing ties. You're crowd surfing. By the way, Abby and I would like to join you at some point. It looked like so much fun. But you're reaching people who are not obsessed with cable news. Look at you, not obsessed with Twitter. How have you gotten people, and how are you going to continue to get people who maybe don't know you as well as they do Biden and Sanders and Warren to check your name at the box?
I think we're doing so well, Megan, because we're talking about problems that Americans see around them every day. The fact that 30% of our stores and malls are closing because of Amazon, and Amazon's paying zero in taxes in return. And when I say that to Americans around the country, they see it around them. And the fact that we can build an economy that works for us, that vision will help address the problems that got Donald Trump elected in the first place. And Americans are very smart. We understand what's going on around us.
So you're having a ton of fun, and you've made it more fun for us too to watch, because campaigns aren't always fun and games, and for you it always isn't fun and games. Bear with me. Last week you came under fire by a former employee who worked for your testing company. This was back in 2007. She says after she came back from her honeymoon, you said she wouldn't work as hard because she started this new chapter in her life, and then you let her go. Where did this come from? Is there any truth to that?
There is zero truth to it, I'm happy to say. I've had so many phenomenal women leaders that have elevated me and my organizations at every phase of my career. And if I was that kind of person, I would never have had any success, which was right. I mean, I'm like most every other human being where if someone gets married, I'm happy for them.
So she made the whole thing up?
Yeah, she did, and it pained me when I saw it because I did work with her.
And she got fired?
And she did get let go, and it was because of absolutely nothing to do with her marital status, that's for sure.
Right, okay. You're being very diplomatic.
Well,
About why she was let go, and that's all right. So let's
no, I mean, I'm not here to, you know.
Of course not.
I mean,
let's go to this topic, though, because as a comedian person, I was interested in this story because you came out in support of Shane Gillis. This is a guy who they found in his past, not recent past actually, they had made some anti-Asian remarks that were not funny, and they dumped him from Saturday Night Live, but you backed him up, and you're Asian. So tell us about that.
He actually insulted me personally. Used a racial epithet about me.
About you.
Individually. And so I reacted like most people would, which is like, what the heck is this? Who is this person? And then my wife and I settled down and watched some of his comedy and tried to figure out whether we thought he was evil or whether he was something else.
Yeah.
And watching his work, I thought that he was a still figuring it out comedian who told some offensive jokes. And that to me was not something that someone should lose their job over. And so as the person who was personally called out, I thought it was my place to say, look, I don't think this person should lose his job, and I was the person insulted, so we should use this as an opportunity to become a little bit more understanding and forgiving as a country, because right now we're in this time where we're, in my mind, unduly punitive and vindictive
and
about the statements. And no sense of humor.
So the comedy removal services are out there, you know? And the other thing about you that I like, I think you're funny because you do
thank
things
you.
like, like you're wearing this thing that says math because you're Asian. It's like a stereotype. So he goes for it. And what else did you do?
And there's a math hat right there.
It's a math hat right now.
There they are.
I just want to say, math is an acronym. It stands for Make America Think Harder. And that's what we have to do. We have to let our fellow citizens know that it's not immigrants causing economic problems around the country. It's technology and automation. We're in the midst of the fourth industrial revolution.
Yeah.
And we have to wake up to that set of challenges.
A lot of people don't think it's funny, though. You say, oh, I'm Asian, so I know a lot of doctors. I got it. I get it. But a lot of people don't get that. They think, what is he doing?
But on the flip side, I was having dinner with a bunch of conservatives last week, and we were saying that you're the only person that seems like you're having a really good time out there, and to bring positivity and levity, especially in this moment, is something to be lauded, I believe.
I try to do it every day.
Yeah. And now since the last time you were here, I've been a little obsessed. I don't know if you heard about it. With
Yeah, she loves you.
with your proposals about universal basic income, a freedom dividend. So I had a conversation with a friend of mine who said perhaps it shouldn't be a cash thing, maybe it should be a dividend so that everyone gets, because he loves the idea, he just feels that we would all do better if we supported these companies that would begin to pay taxes. We support them because they need us to keep going, and you have a different groove. So is there room for it to blossom, this idea?
Oh, yeah, 100%.
Okay, good.
Yeah, the freedom dividend, $1,000 a month, it's a new foundation for us all.
Right.
We can do many things on top of it.
Yes.
And I talk about the work that my wife does at home with our two boys, one of whom is autistic. We have to build an economy that works for her and caregivers around the country. We have to start expanding the way. Oh, yeah, I miss them when I'm on the road, which is an awful lot.
Yeah.
Thank you. But we have to redefine our own success because we have this GDP measurement that's driving us off a cliff while we're getting more anxious and depressed.
Yeah.
And even our life expectancy is going down. So if we redefine our economic measurements to correspond to how we're doing and then lay a real foundation with this freedom dividend, then we can start moving in the direction you're describing.
I gotta ask this question. Why do you think no one on either side or in the middle has embraced this idea that companies that make their bones in our country should participate and help us participate in our growth? Why do you think the Republicans, the Democrats, the Independents, nobody is saying, hey, that is a great idea and we should all be focusing on why did all these holes appear and suddenly nobody's paying taxes but us? I mean, why do you think that's not?
I think you know the answer, Whoopi, which is that our government's been bought and sold by these companies. And so if you have people whose money is beholden to various corporate donors or whatnot, then the last thing they want to do is call out how messed up a system we have.
Right.
If $1 trillion tech company like Amazon can pay less in taxes than everyone in this room.
Yeah.
So you know you're not going anywhere right now, right?
Oh, I hope
Stay
not.
right there. We'll be back with more with Andrew Yang. Joseph McGuire testified about the release of the whistleblower's complaint that you know who pressured the Ukrainian president to give up dirt on his rival, Joe Biden. Take a look.
You don't believe the whistleblower is a political hack, do you, Director?
I believe that, as I said before, Mr. Chairman, I believe the whistleblower is operating in good faith.
Well, then they
has
couldn't
followed
be.
the law.
They couldn't be in good faith if they were acting as a political hack, could they?
Mr. Chairman, my job is to support and lead the entire intelligence community. That individual works for me. Therefore, it is my job to make sure that I support and defend that person. I think the whistleblower did the right thing. I think he followed the law every step of the way.
So joining Hot Topics to help us unpack this giant suitcase of stuff, please welcome live from D.C., Washington Post reporter Amber Phillips. Hey, Amber.
Hey there.
Hey. So it's what? Can you go through everything we've learned thus far this morning, please?
How much time do you have? We learned that the whistleblower essentially has direct access to the White House, and this person, we still don't know who this person is, detailed a pattern over months of President Trump trying to help himself by using his power, and that White House officials tried to cover all this up.
So that's
That's it?
That's it. It's only been 5 hours of listening. No. So.
Okay, so Amber, this is Joy Behar speaking. First of all, the McGuire, the guy who is speaking, he gets the report that there's urgency to the whistleblower's report, and yet he doesn't say, okay, my job is now to hand this over to Congress. Am I right? He gets a second opinion from the White House. Why did he do that? That's not really correct, is it?
Yeah, that's exactly right, Joyce. So what he's telling Congress right at this moment is, I followed the rules, because when you get like a typical whistleblower complaint, you get a second opinion to see if it's really that urgent to ship it over to Congress right away. He went to the White House, he went to the Justice Department. They essentially told him, no, don't give it to Congress. But the problem is, what Democrats are trying to point out is, this is not a typical whistleblower complaint. Like, there isn't normally a whistleblower complaint that implicates the President of the United States and the head of the Justice Department. Mm-hmm. So what they're arguing is McGuire followed the rules when he shouldn't have. Like, he should have taken into context this entire political environment and given it straight to Congress.
Right, and he didn't.
Yeah. And what the conversation, it's not one a president should be having with a foreign leader. But how do you go from abuse of power to then it being a crime, it being unconstitutional, and an impeachable offense? How do you make that jump? And are we there yet?
Yeah, I don't think Democrats in the House need to even make that connection between a crime and something that's impeachable. That's because, like, there's a long-standing agreement that you can't indict a sitting president. That's what we saw with the Mueller report, kind of fizzling out in a sense of getting Trump, for those who wanted that to happen. Congress can impeach a president for whatever they want. They get to decide what high crimes and misdemeanors in the Constitution says. So House Democrats don't necessarily need to implicate the president in a crime, though some legal experts who have talked to me and my colleagues say there is definitely evidence of that here. They can just say he abused the power, he wasn't presidential, let's impeach him.
Hi, Amber, it's Megan. In his letter accompanying the whistleblower complaint, the Inspector General says that he did find evidence of, quote, arguable political bias on the part of the whistleblower in, quote, favor of a rival political candidate. So do you think this makes the complaint any less credible?
It's difficult to tell. Republicans in Congress right now are certainly glomming onto that line. The problem is we don't know who this whistleblower is or isn't, and so it allows both sides to cast, whatever they want to see from this person. The anonymity, allows people to tell their own stories here of who this whistleblower might be.
To sort of project political bias on who they are or they aren't.
Exactly, yeah. That we have this, shadowy person, and people can say, lob onto whatever details they want without the full context of who this person is to make the case. The intelligence chief talking for Congress today did say that he thought the whistleblower acted in good faith and followed all the laws for this complaint, for whatever that's worth.
Okay, so Nancy Pelosi is keeping her impeachment inquiry narrow in scope. Do you think, as a reporter, I guess, it's your opinion though, is that a good tactic, do you think?
Yeah, well, I could give my analysis since it's also part of my job here at the Washington Post. I talked to someone who was in the House during the impeachment scandal, a lawyer for President Clinton. He told me what he thinks Pelosi is doing is impeachment light. Normally, to the extent there is a pattern for this, you would have an entire committee sprung up and dedicated specifically to talking about impeachment. Pelosi's telling a bunch of committees to just keep going down the road of investigating Trump and look for things that might be impeachable. His concern was that there isn't all this staff and all these lawyers and full-time dedicated people dedicated to writing up articles of impeachment and investigating the president. And so what will that do to the case that they eventually make and need to sell to the American public? Mm-hmm.
The Bidens. Take a look.
As far as withholding funds, those funds were paid. They were fully paid. But my complaint has always been, and I withhold again, and I'll continue to withhold until such time as Europe and other nations contribute. to you until such time as Europe and other nations contribute to Ukraine. When you see the readout of the call, which I assume you'll see at some point, you'll understand. That call was perfect. It couldn't have been nicer, and even the Ukrainian government put out a statement that that was a perfect call. There was no pressure put on them whatsoever. But there was pressure put on with respect to Joe Biden. What Joe Biden did for his son, that's something they should be looking at.
So, you know, some people calling this the tipping point for Democrats, and do they need to call it for what it is? He's trying to attack Joe in every way he can.
Nervous.
He should be nervous. He should be nervous. People don't like what he's been doing and how he's doing it. And to say that, you know, he withheld the money because people aren't paying. What are you talking about? Who's not paying? Who's not paying what? And did you ask them for money?
Well,
What was the deal?
that's a lie. Probably one of his lawyers told him to say that to get out of it, because he basically made this phone call to the Ukrainian President Zelensky one day after Mueller testified. So he figured, well, I got away with it that time.
Yeah.
All the country is now saying is that I didn't solicit help from the Russians, that they gave it to me, but I didn't go after it. Now he's saying, well, you know what? I got away with that. Let's see what else I can do. So he makes a call. He doesn't give the money until he makes it clear to this Ukrainian president that maybe they will help him to go into the election and help him defeat Biden. So that is called quid pro quo, and if they can prove it with the transcript, which he keeps saying, I would love to give it to you. Well, you know, I believe in people should do what they love. So give it up, okay?
Well, I don't think, you know, I think rather than have the transcript, because a transcript can always be redacted for national security purposes, but I think that's what they will do. I still think that Congress should see the whistleblower complaint pursuant to the law.
Yes.
But I also really think that that is why I have always